So what you take is going to depend on where you're going. Weather is going to be a key factor, what kind of terrain, but in general, what you see here is everything I take on a 3-day, 2-night hike trip. Let's go over clothes first. This whole pile is the majority of what I take. So number one, I always take a hard shell. This is the Arc'teryx Beta LT. I never leave without it. This always goes in my pack. And then in terms of layering, I always take a mid-layer. This is the Patagonia Nano Air, the hoodie, which I really like. It breathes really well, so it works if it's a little chilly. Works really good as a layering piece and also breathes, so if it is kind of warm out, I'm not going to get super sweaty in this. And then I like to take a couple base layers, each with hoods. These are both Patagonia sun shirts. I'll take 2 and I'll swap out every day in the morning. I like to wear a fresh one every day. And then usually if the weather permits, I'll leave one of these outside my tent to kind of air dry. So it kind of feels a little bit better. And then for the bottoms, I'm basically wearing one pair of pants the entire time. These are the Prana convertibles, which I do like. I don't really convert them too often, but they work really well. They're super stretchy. They're light, and then they also have cargo pockets, which I like. And then in terms of socks, just like the base layer, I like to bring 2 pair. I'm playing around with these Labent socks, which I actually really like. These are merino. They work really well. And again, I like to bring 2, so I'll switch these out usually every day. And then again, weather permitting, I will leave one out or sometimes both out to air dry of my tent when I am sleeping. So 2 pairs of socks I bring. A buff I will have on me at all times. Buff, if you see my other videos, is one of my favorite pieces of gear. I use it all the time. I use it for a million different things. I wear it as a hat. I wear it as a face mask. I wear it around my neck as like a neck gaiter. I can also use this as a towel to dry stuff off, including dishes. I can use it as a tourniquet, stop bleeding. So a million different uses for the buff, but I always have at least one buff with me at all times. And I also like to carry a spare set of gloves just in case. And these are pretty lightweight shell gloves, the Mountain Hardwares. These usually just stay in my bag, but occasionally if it does get cold or raining, I will use these, or if it's pretty muddy, dirty where I am, I might also use these as well, just to keep my hands a little bit cleaner. And that basically does it in terms of clothes, other than the shoes that are going to be on my body. I usually will just wear a baseball cap. I don't bring a regular beanie type cap unless it's going to be cold weather. And that basically covers it with clothes. So now, on to the next. So up next, I have my 10 essential kit and my first aid and some of the other items that I like to bring that I usually will sometimes leave in this little zip sack are my headlamp, which always comes with me, along with an extra set of batteries. I will bring the Garmin InReach Mini with me as backup. I always bring a multi-tool. This is the Leatherman Signal. This one's really good. I like it. It's a little bit heavy, but it's really nice. So this comes with me always. And then hand sanitizer. This is the best way to keep my hands clean. Works great, and you can also use it to start a fire in a pinch if you need. And then I will bring a couple body wipes. These are pretty good at the end of the day to kind of wipe down, get clean. They also work well when you're going potty, number 2, in the woods. These are biodegradable, so I always bring, a handful of these depending. And then the other 2 essentials are going to be a bug spray and a sunblock, which again, will usually stay in the lid of my bag. I bring sunglasses, and that's basically it in terms of first aid and 10 essential items. All right, up next, we're going to talk sleep system. So this is an ultralight trekking pole tent. It's a single person. It's very light. It doesn't take too long to set off, and especially if you're going by yourself, this works really well. If I'm going with 2 or more people, I'm definitely going to take probably a 3-person tent, but otherwise this is going to go in my bag. And then inside that, I have my Thermarest inflatable pad. Again, this is super light, super easy to blow up, pretty comfortable. And atop that, I will also put my sleeping bag. This is the Mountain Hardwear. It's a zero down bag. Works great. It's light and ultra compressible. And depending on the weather, might switch it out for a 20 or 30 degree bag, all the way down to a negative 40, which I have used in certain situations on Denali, and just if it's very, very cold. And then to finish off the sleep system, all I have is a compression bag. This is the Sea to Summit Event bag. I can fit my entire sleeping bag in here, compress it down to nothing, and it fits great in my bag. Now we're moving on to food and camp kitchen. So when it comes to food, I like to put everything in its own zip sack. And then for a 3-day, I'm usually going to take the dehydrated foods. I have some Mountain House here. Depending on what you like, there's a lot of different brands. I'll do another video discussing food and what I like to bring. But usually my system when eating for like a 3-day, 2-night, even 3-night trip is making one of these for breakfast and one for dinner. And I usually like to do like a cold breakfast, so I kind of gravitate toward the granola. This has milk and blueberries, and I'll do that for breakfast. And then for dinner, it's always going to be something hot. And the one caveat I have with the kind of freeze-dried foods is the sodium level. I like to keep that sodium level down. You just have to be careful with that kind of sodium unless you're sweating like insane amounts on the trip. You usually don't need the amount of sodium that it takes to process this food. And then I'll put all these in my bag. And then during the day, in terms of snacks and lunch, I like to bring bars and packs. I'm a big fan of the Honey Stinger waffles. They kind of pack a lot for the amount of weight that they have. And I also like to bring these Justin's almond butters. Again, these are light, they're really convenient, and they pack a lot of calories, a lot of healthy fat. And these usually just can sustain me when I'm doing my hikes. I will bring 2 Nalgene's. I always bring 2. I will bring a water filter, depending on where I'm going. I usually bring 2 so I can scoop up water, filter it into a Nalgene. And then whatever I'm using to scoop the water, it remains a water scoop. I will never drink out of it just because of the parasites. It's not going to be clean water. So it always has to pass through Life Straw or whatever it is you use. And then that goes into my Nalgene's. And then this is my little camp stove. It's the Jetboil. Works great. Super compact, very light. It holds a flame like no one's business and can boil water incredibly fast. So this is great for drinks, for coffee, and for getting the water ready to be able to make your foods. I should say the other benefit about having a cold dehydrated food for breakfast is you do not need to heat up water for it. You can just use regular cold water, and it works great. And then the hot water I will save and usually just make coffee with it. And then I'm always going to bring a spoon. And for the coffee, I'm always going to bring a little portable cup. This is a little Sea to Summit. Weighs nothing, but it works really well. Very easy to hold. My hand doesn't get scorched if I am drinking hot coffee. In terms of like bowls and plates and all that, I don't see the need for them, especially when you could just eat out of these. I usually like to keep one of these after I eat out of it, and I'll clean it out a little bit, and I keep one as backup just in case something happens to another one. I have one of these to be able to put food in and pour water over, and then you just eat straight out of this, and that definitely saves me a lot of weight. All right, and last up on the list, I have my backpack. So I'll usually keep an extra stuff sack, and this is what I'm going to put my clothes in, just to keep some of the gear contained. Otherwise, I don't like to use a lot of you know, these little bags. I usually try to use only 2 or 3 of them in total. In terms of clothes, I like to stuff the clothes into the bag to kind of fill up all that dead space, all that free space. It makes the bag a lot more solid when you're climbing, a lot more comfortable to carry, and you save a lot of room. So this is my bag that I use. And then along with my bag, I'm also going to take one of my trekking poles. This is the Black Diamond Alpine Carbon Light, which are very light. And in terms of the poles, I take one. I'm a one-person pole user, as they say. I don't totally get the 2 pole use, but to each their own. Take 1 pole, take 2 poles. I would definitely always take 1. Definitely helps pass the time. It helps with the downhills. It helps with, if you're going up any steep uphills, to take some of that weight of your pack off. And it's also a deterrent for certain wildlife. So next I'm going to show you how I pack all this stuff into this little 35-liter bag. And now I'm going to pack it all up into my bag. So I like to keep it pretty simple. I follow the system of least to most. So what does that mean? Whatever goes on the bottom of my pack is going to be the least used. Whatever's going on the top of my pack is going to be the most used. And I'll show you how that works. So now I got everything packed up and separated and ready to go in my pack. So I got my sleep system here, sleeping bag, tent, sleeping pad, trekking pole, which is going to go on the outside of my pack. Got my first aid, my 10 essentials, which includes these. I got my clothes, got my food ready to go, got my snacks, my water system, and my pack. Now I'm going to show you how I like to pack it up. So following the least to most, so the least used is going to be my sleep system. That is going in my pack first. So I'm going to put my tent at the bottom, followed by my sleeping pad. And I put the sleeping pad in with the tent because they fit well together and it takes out any dead space. And that's going to be the other key as I'm packing, is I don't want any dead space. So you'll notice with my clothes, they are not in a zip sack or anything like that, because I like to shove them in and fill up all that dead space and get my pack nice and compact. So I got my sleeping bag all packed up, ready to go. That goes in next. And in this case, my sleeping bag weighs a little bit more than my sleeping tent. So it's another reason why I like to put the tent in first. I like to get the sleeping bag, the heavier item, closer to my mid-back. It's going to help with the carry weight. After that, I like to take any clothes that I'm not going to be using. So I'll take my extra base layer and then I'll shove it into any of the dead space in my pack. Fill everything in. Keep it nice and tight. Same with my socks. Those are going to go in. After that, I'm going to put my food. Again, this is camp food. So this is stuff I'm not going to need while I'm hiking or climbing. It's the stuff only at camp. So that goes in next. After that, I'm going to get my 10 essentials and my first aid kit. Those are going to be put in. So now we got our clothes. Gloves I'm going to put in next because you never know when I'm going to need them. Probably not. But still going to put those in. And my mid layer is going next because this is something I might use while I'm hiking. I might have to take off my pack and put on a mid layer if it does start to get cold or windy. So that goes in after that. And again, I'm shoving it in, filling up all the dead space, keeping that pack nice and tight. And then after that, my hard shell. This is something I want easy access to just in case it does start to rain or starts to get pretty windy out. I'm going to be using this, so that I like near the top of my bag. And then next up is my water system. So I'm going to go ahead and get all my water in because these are going to be used a lot. I'm going to be drinking a lot while I am hiking. So I'm going to put my 2 bottles in next. And once those are in, cinch it down pretty tight. I don't want it flopping around while I'm hiking. I don't want to be off balance when I'm moving around. All right, that is packed up, ready to go. Now we got the lid. Then we also have this little Betalight 4 from Black Diamond, which I've been using, which I really like. And I'm going to start putting in all my other essentials. Headlamp,
bug spray. I got my hand sanitizer, sunblock, things I'm going to be using. Got my water purification, got my wipes, and I got my sunglasses. I'm going to zip that up. Still plenty of room in here in case I wanted to take something else. And then for the lid, my multi-tool. This usually goes in my pocket, but sometimes I'll throw it in the lid. And then my snacks for the day, also going in the lid. And I want these accessible because I'm going to be eating them as I'm going. Then last up, I got my trekking pole, which I'm probably going to be holding, but for now, I'm going to put it around my bag, cinch it down. And then the bag is packed. Again, I don't like when there's little creases, so I like to get them all folded tight. And then also I have my InReach, which is going to be on the shoulder strap. And then I take a couple carabiners and a couple slings and just some rope just in case, you never know. But that's it. The bag is packed. I would say it weighs probably only about 35 pounds, which is pretty light for a 3-day trip with food. Once I add water to the bottles, it'll weigh a bit more, but otherwise it's totally manageable, comfortable. Everything's packed in nice and tight for a 3-day adventure. All right, so again, this bag weighs probably about 35 pounds. I would say 35 to be safe. Not super heavy at all, totally manageable, but sometimes you will get a pretty heavy bag, especially if you're doing like a mountaineering trip or anything that's going to be longer than 3 days, 2 or 3 nights. So I'm just going to show you a quick little trick of how to put that bag on when it is heavy. You're going to grab this grab handle. This is one of the strongest parts of your backpack. A lot of people don't know. So what I like to do is, once it's standing up, I'll take it, hold it, the grab handle in my hand, grab it, sling it around. It's that simple. Buckled up and ready to go. So another tip with the waist strap is you always want it halfway on the iliac crest, which is your hip bone. So you want half of it over, half of it on. So when you tighten it up, all the weight right now is on my hips. I hardly feel anything on my shoulders. That way my hips and my legs are doing most of the work, not my shoulders. You will burn out your shoulders if you have all the weight carrying on your shoulders. So definitely get the right size pack. Get it up, situated in the right spot. You'll know it. You can loosen these up. Pack's not going anywhere, and I'm good to go. In terms of the chest strap, the main purpose of the chest strap is just to keep these top shoulder straps in place. So you don't want it super tight. You don't want to be cutting off circulation or making it hard to breathe. You can keep it loose. Hip belt is the key to getting a perfect fitting pack. So I hope that was helpful. This is what I take on my 3-day hikes, and I will see you next time with another video. Thanks for watching.